Hey guys, welcome back into the Court Report. Sarah and Orlando here, of course, taking your guys' questions about the Trailblazers and the Mavericks. That game happening tonight at 7:30 p.m. right here in the Moda Center. We've got a busy set of games coming up. We've got tonight, Friday off, back-to-back Saturday, Sunday. We're away on Saturday, home back here on Sunday, and that happens to be actually a Fred Meyer family night, so we're taking on the Denver Nuggets that night. I want to remind you guys that every Trailblazers game is a fun, family-friendly, and it's affordable. Purchase the Fred Meyer family pack and receive 4 tickets, 4 sodas, and 4 hot dogs, and a family-sized popcorn with tons of other entertainment. Only $66. So the next one is this Sunday against the Denver Nuggets. If you guys want to get together and come on down to the game, we'd love to have you because then we have Monday off and then another back-to-back. Oh my goodness.
Isn't that amazing?
So many games to start the season. I mean, I know that there's a lot of games always that we play, but man, it just feels like we're just flying right through them. I can't believe that we're already here at our 5th game. Yeah, we're exactly.
Isn't that amazing?
Exactly. Tons of great games to start the season. So, and the Nuggets one will definitely be really good as well. Before we start hopping in to talk the nitty-gritty about the Mavs, of course, as always, you guys are in control of this show, and we've got a great question here from Aaron that we want to get to, and he says, Robinson had a few good games in a row. What are your thoughts on his long-term role on this team, and can he hold on to his rotation spot? He, of course, talking about the last 2 games where the first one, T-Rob kind of surprised to get the call there against the Warriors. Was like, hey, I had no idea that I was playing. Gets called again against the Cleveland Cavaliers, both him and your main man, Will Barton. How are you feeling about them?
You know, I'm feeling great about it. And it's interesting, however, because Myers Leonard did have a solid preseason, particularly towards the end. You know, but if we look at Coach Stott's track record, his record for playing guys, he gives guys opportunities to kind of get some minutes and to use those minutes well. And I'm beginning to think that that's more of a strategy of his just to get the most out of players at particular points in the season. So whether it's a rotation thing or whether it's just a Coach Stott strategy thing, I'm still figuring it out, but I'm going to lean towards Coach Stott's strategy right now to get the best out of Thomas Robinson. And then I wouldn't be surprised to see 3 or 4 games of Myers Leonard to get the best out of him. And what do you do when you get the best out of someone? You maximize potential.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this is the first time that we're actually thinking that we understand Coach Stott's strategy. I mean, so often it's just the rotation that you see, you know, it's that same rotation. But both these games, I'm like, wait, Will Barton? Wait. Thomas Robinson? What's happening? I had no idea that was coming, but I do have to say I love seeing it. I think T-Rob brings so much to a game, and I think that, you know, I mean, one of the things that could be said was that Thomas Robinson didn't have his option picked up. I don't think personally that that's a knock on Thomas Robinson. I think it has to do purely with the numbers because there's a lot of important contracts that are going to be coming up this summer, including, you know, LaMarcus Aldridge,
that's right.
Wesley Matthews, Damian Lillard's going to be coming up soon. So we've got a lot of things to think about, and Neil's got things in his head. And you know, I really think that Thomas is doing a good job and doing what he needs to do. You need to have a guy like that off the bench that can come in and bring in that energy. And both him and Will are doing a great job, and they have developed so much in the last year that it's nice to see them and be like, oh, hey, remember when we saw them out on the floor, we were like, what's happening? And then now we're kind of like, oh, hey, these guys are solid, good rotation players.
For the record, I never said that about Will Barton.
Oh, you know, of course. Of course he didn't. I was the one that was like, why is Will being so crazy on the floor? He looks crazy out there. But now I realize that that's just his game.
That's just his game.
And I can't think of anybody else that I compare that to. But man, I do love watching me some Will Barton. Absolutely. All right, so let's go ahead and start talking about the Mavs. I see some of your guys' questions in there really starting to break down the Mavs. They are 3-1 right now. They are the most efficient offense in the league at this point. Here is their rundown. Their one loss was by 1 point, 101-100 against the San Antonio Spurs on opening night, on the night the Spurs got their rings. So that is their one loss by 1 point. Here's their other games. 120-102 over the Jazz, 109-104 over the Pelicans, 118-113 over the Celtics. Are you noticing a trend here?
All above
These
100.
guys love to score. Holy moly, do they really like to score. But on the other side, you can see that some of those games fairly close. So they're going to let us score as well. So it's going to be like we thought what it was going to be on Tuesday, an old West shootout here.
That's right. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be really good. what are your initial thoughts on the Mavericks? What are we watching for?
Well, the most scary stat to me about the Mavs is when you look at a high octane offense like that, you typically look at it and say they are getting shots up. They are figuring out a way to get more field goal attempts than their opponents. Well, the Blazers are averaging 83 shots a game. The Mavs, 84. So what does that tell you? They're shooting 54% as a team from the floor. So the scary stat to me is it's not the fact that they're just taking a lot of shots. They're making a lot of shots. And we're going to talk later, obviously, about the individual performances, because obviously if the team is averaging a good percentage from the floor, clearly there are some players that are shooting very well from the floor. So to me, the Mavs are a team that, one, they know who they are. They're an offensive juggernaut. Two, they're going to push the tempo and the pace. And three, they're going to make shots. So
absolutely, absolutely. One of the questions that we asked you guys in the poll today was, what's the biggest key to victory for Portland in getting a win over the Mavs tonight? 50% of you guys are saying kind of what needs to happen in response to the fact that these guys are a great shooting team, and that is keep a focus on defense. Your other options in that poll, which it's pretty evenly spread beyond that 50%, are duplicate Tuesday's offensive performance, which are great, win the battle of the boards. That's one of the things that I think is very important, and rule the hustle stats. Those are really big. But 50% of you guys keep the focus on defense. I love that you guys are seeing the value that was there for the Trailblazers and how much it meant to them in that game against Cleveland. Okay, I want to hop back over into the chat because there was another question or comment here from John LaCrofka. Good basketball mind. He says, Dirk is going to get his tonight. Is it more important to try to shut down Monte, who has always lit us up, or Chandler Parsons? Either way, Nick and Wes's defense, again, seems to be the key. So true.
Very good.
How are you going to address that? What's more important, Monte or Chandler Parsons?
Very good. Well, I'm going to go with
a tough one.
I'm going to go with Monte, and here's why. Although Chandler Parsons is averaging over 23 points a game, and he himself is shooting like 50-something% out of from the floor, so he's been hot. Monte Ellis is a tough defend for the Portland Trailblazers, and it's because his half-court ability is really, really effective. His ability to get into the gaps, to shoot the gaps, to get to the basket. I mean, he compared himself to Dwayne Wade at one point and felt like he was on par with Dwayne Wade. Well, the reality and why he would say something like that is that their games are similar in that they slash to the basket well, they can find the gaps, they shoot the mid-range jumper well, they can stretch you out to the three-point line. So he's a tough matchup in the half-court offense.
I completely agree. John, why don't you tell us what you think? I mean, you asked the question. You're a fantastic basketball mind. What do the rest of you guys think? Do you think that is going to be one of the most crucial matchups? Again, another poll question that we want to get to from you guys is which of those matchups do you think is going to be the most crucial? And of all of those, I mean, we had Damian versus Jameer. We had Monte Ellis versus Wesley Matthews, Nicola Batum, Chandler Parsons, and of course, LaMarcus Aldridge versus Dirk Nowitzki. We can't let that one out of sight, and 45% of you guys agree that Dirk in LA is going to be the top matchup of the night and the most crucial to Portland getting a victory. But then right there behind that, 30%, Nicola Batum versus Chandler Parsons. And I think that is a very good point as well, because like you said, I mean, Monte, Wesley can get in there and disrupt. Monte is going to do his thing, but Wesley he is just such a good player and has been so solid lately that, especially defensively, that he's going to give, if anything, he's going to bring down Monte versus, I think, Chandler Parsons, because Chandler Parsons will find an open shot. He will be able to shoot over Nick in some ways as long as those arms are, so it's one of those things. But we also have the question, is Chandler going to be a little riled from his last visit here to the Moda Center when Damian Lillard launched the shot right over the top of him? That was fantastic. I'm anxious to see how many people are asking him about how do you feel being back in the Moda Center, because you know that's going to be one of the top questions. But you're right. I mean, Chandler Parsons, a lot of offensive weapons here on this Dallas Mavericks team, and it is just so important that the Trailblazers, like you guys said, and when I made this poll, that was the thing that I was thinking too, was keep a focus on defense. You need to do that, because that then in turn will channel forward and it help ignite the offense, which I think was a big focus and a big piece of the success from Tuesday night.
Agreed.
All right, we've got another question that we wanted to get your thoughts on in the chat as well as in the poll. And one of the things that we've been talking about with these names and who we're going to be facing tonight with the Dallas Mavericks, it's weird because none of these, I mean, not all these guys were on this team last year.
Right.
The Mavericks have really done a good job in putting together a solid team.
Yes.
And so we asked you guys, which off-season addition for the Mavericks is going to give Trailblazers the most trouble? So really kind of was the best for them. And you guys, it's narrowed down to two. There's four options, excuse me. Chandler Parsons, Richard Jefferson, Jameer Nelson, and Tyson Chandler. I like that somebody in there voted Jameer Nelson because when we've talked about Jameer Nelson in the Damian Lillard matchup, he's the kind of guard, the kind of bulky, stocky guard that really will give Damian Lillard some trouble, but Damian has strengthened up.
Correct.
And he's gotten a lot smarter. So though we may have been worried about that a couple seasons ago, we might not be as worried about it tonight, which is great.
Well said.
And 57% of you guys are going with Chandler Parsons. We've got this guy ingrained in our brains.
Yes, we do.
And another 38% of you guys with Tyson Chandler, who is back on the Mavs. I personally enjoyed Tyson Chandler's game.
Oh, of course.
And the way that he plays and the way that Robin Lopez play, I'm really looking forward to this matchup. And I want to see Tyson and Chris Kaman get some time.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
I'm just really excited to see the big man matchup. Give me your thoughts on the big man. I mean, we've been talking so much about the shooting of Dallas, and we know that Dirk, of course, loves to catch and shoot from the mid-range, so he's kind of one of those weird big men, which LaMarcus Aldridge is that way too, and I guess we're seeing a bit of a trend of that in, excuse me, in the league.
Yes.
But what are your thoughts on the interior versus the exterior tonight and the importance and how that's going to balance out with the big man battle inside and then the guards outside?
Well, in my opinion, looking at the two matchups, starting with the interior, Tyson Chandler is much more critical to the success of the Dallas Mavericks than our interior players. Now, before people throw up their arms and wonder why is Orlando saying that, let me say this. The Dallas Mavericks have gotten out-rebounded in 3 of their last 4 games. And one of those was a trouncing by the Boston Celtics on the offensive boards. So they will let you rebound. If it were not for Tyson on the boards, the Dallas Mavericks would have no presence in the interior. So with that said, they really need him to step up on the rebounds. And if Robin Lopez is the Robin Lopez that we know and he crashes the boards and does a good job, that's going to be a significant benefit and I think advantage for the Trailblazers. On the perimeter, it's really going to come down to, and you said it in the last game, if the game between the Cavs and the Blazers turns into a shootout, we win. Well, in this particular matchup, it's a little bit closer, but I think the same holds true. If it turns into an absolute shootout on the perimeter, I believe we win. I think we have more weapons overall on the perimeter than
Which really is what it's looking like. I mean, when you look at just looking at the scores of the Dallas Mavericks, knowing that they're going to score, but they're going to let you score too.
That's right.
So it's one of those things where if we're getting down to it, we have to take advantage of the pieces that they're going to let us take advantage of. And that actually should bring us to some of the challenges and the opportunities that the Trailblazers will have tonight. One of the opportunities that we have is that some of the things that we are strong at, they are not necessarily so strong at. So rebounding.
Yes.
I mean, if we can get those boards, offensive boards specifically, and get some second chance points in there, that might be a little bit of a difference maker.
Agreed.
As well as the little things. I mean, the hustle stats, taking care of the basketball. It's going to be some of these little things because if we go out there and we shoot the ball like we know we can shoot the ball, and then, Dallas is shooting the ball well also, I mean, it's going to come down to some of those little things.
Absolutely.
Here's what I want to get your take on, and let me know what you guys think. And this actually is going to ride off of a question that we have from Boise Blazer. He says, Orlando, I would guess that this would be a true test of just how far our defense has come, huh? That's a good point. And I love that you bring that up because we talk about how much the Mavs score, but we've also been talking about how the Trailblazers have improved on defense.
Right.
What are your thoughts, predictions?
Boise Blazer.
What are we going to do?
Wow.
What are we going to see?
Love that, Boise Blazer. Love the observation and the comment because you just said that the Mavericks' weakness is also the Trailblazers' strength, and that strength is most personified in the second half. where the Dallas Mavericks have been absolutely atrocious in the third quarter. They've been outscored by about 50 points, I think, so far this season in the third quarter. So the Trailblazers have been increasingly defensive-minded in the third quarter. So that's going to play directly into our hands. However, to Boise Blazers' point, this will be the absolute truest test of the defense that the Blazers have seen. But out of the adversity of not shooting the ball well in the first couple of games, the Trailblazers have fortified, I think, at least a feeling and an understanding of what it means to have lockdown defense. And if this is turned out to be the true test for the defense, I believe it will be positive because the Blazers have demonstrated that they can lock down. I don't think the Cavs matchup had anything to do with LeBron James not being engaged.
I don't either.
It had everything to do with the Trailblazers being engaged on defense.
I absolutely agree, and I love that you just said that. Absolutely love it. Couldn't agree more. Let's get to some more questions here in the chat because you guys, as we break down this Mavs matchup with the Trailblazers tonight, we want to know what you guys are thinking about and what you're going to be watching for. Good question here from Riverman, who's logging in for the first time. He says he doesn't have a Facebook or Twitter login, but he's here. Welcome back to the show, Riverman. We've missed you since last season. He said, are we ahead of the game since Kaman knows the Mavs playbook? And I would also add Terry Stotts to that list. And, you know, personally, my thoughts are, there really aren't any surprises at this point in the NBA. You know, sure, they might not have specific sets. You might have some out of bounds play here and there, but for the most part, there's not going to be a ton of surprises. It's just go out and play the game. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, having Coach Stotts there, I think, is the ultimate in understanding what the Mavs want to do. But the reality of it is, Sarah, you said it best. It's going out there and playing the game. You know what Dirk's going to do. Dirk's feeling better. He's looking better. He's moving better. You know what he's going to do. You know what LA is going to do. You know what Chandler Parsons is looking to do. So all of these matchups come down to the player stepping on the court and getting it done and executing.
Absolutely. You guys have a lot of questions here in the chat too, so let's get to some more of those. Pat Drayton wants to kind of ride on that question from Boise Blazer about from Riverman about Chris Kaman knowing the playbook and saying, you know, what are your thoughts on Chris Kaman so far after 4 games?
Oh, he's phenomenal. Fantastic. An excellent pickup.
Yes.
There couldn't have been a better. I had other people in mind. I have to be honest, but
you're not the only one. I don't think anybody was expecting a Chris Kaman.
Right. And so I think excellent. His play has been great. His offensive contribution has been great. He also brings a toughness and a leadership, just all around great guy.
And he's just a cool dude too.
Yeah.
You guys, if you haven't seen Exploring Kaman, you should definitely go check that out. It's hilarious and ridiculous, and you will just love Chris Kaman even more.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. I love what he's doing on the basketball court too as well. And I like that you said, I kind of like that we mentioned that nobody was really expecting that, because that's one of those things where we'll keep being the GM to our fantasy leagues and let Neil O'Shea do his thing, because
I love it.
You know, and it's nice when you have a GM like Neil who's so connected and has been around so many guys, because, you know, he knew Chris and he knew what Chris could bring, and he knew that the last year or so has not been a demonstration of who Chris Kaman is as a basketball player, and he knew what, you know, he understands the chemistry of this team and what's going to mesh and what's not, and I think that he just knocked it out of the park in this one with Chris Kaman. And I think that we have a lot more to come. I mean, one of the things that I wasn't expecting out of Chris Kaman was the offensive game that he brings.
Wow. Yeah.
I had no idea that Chris Kaman, that was something that he was like, oh, hey, yeah, I can shoot the ball like this. What?
I just remember his jump shot. I remember him shooting those 8 to 10 foot jump shots and knocking them down. And I remember him making his moves with his back to the basket. I just didn't, you know, obviously didn't see it as much. So I didn't think as much about it. Now I'm seeing it at regular doses, and I'm thinking, this is great.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, he's opened up so much by the way that the Trailblazers play that it's a perfect compliment. So good question. I could rave all day about Chris Kaman because I'm really enjoying watching him play in his addition to our team. Boise Blazer has another question. He says, Orlando, what did the Spurs do to beat the Mavs that we can do as well? Both of the things that we already talked about, right?
That's
I mean, you win the battle of the boards, and you shoot well. I mean, they drained from outside. I think they hit half their 3-point shots. So I mean, what, I don't know really what else you can add. I mean, as far as breaking down tonight's game, if energy and effort are there on both sides from both teams, the thing that's going to determine this game is going to be the battle of the boards, shooting from outside, and then the little hustle plays.
No question.
I don't really know. I mean, what else would you add?
Well, the only thing I would add to that is the fact that I think that the Dallas Mavericks should have won that game versus the Spurs. Just at the end of the day, they should have won that game. What it came down to was late game execution. The San Antonio Spurs moved the ball incredibly well, which they're known for. The Trailblazers moved the ball incredibly well, which we're known for. I really think it's going to be execution, moving the ball, force the Mavericks to play defense. That would be the only thing I would add to that.
Yeah, love it. All right, another question here from Andrew. He says, what are your thoughts considering how the Spurs series has changed Portland's outlook on defense? I really, really like that question. What are your thoughts there?
Well, you know, there's something to be said. When I was a young player and I was playing in Portland, and I, you know, at the time, not to toot my own horn, I was one of the top players in the city. I traveled to New York to play in a national tournament, and I saw some of the best players in the world. And it opened my eyes so much so that when I came back, I had new things to work on and new improvements to make. I think that San Antonio series was an eye-opener for the Portland Trailblazers. Coming off of an incredible series against the Houston Rockets, everyone's riding high, and then you run into a buzzsaw. You realized at that moment just what it takes to win an NBA championship. You cannot discount that. I think that is going to be the biggest difference in this season, is that the Trailblazers have a renewed focus and an experience that they can take it well into the playoffs.
I love what you said there, because your entire comparison had to do with, you said you were one of the best players in the city. And I think the Trailblazers, that the revelation of what you just mentioned, Andrew, could not have happened had the Trailblazers not had the success that they had last season. So, you know, going through the success that they have, you know, having a great season that people didn't expect, winning a first-round playoff series, and then the brick wall of the Spurs, like you said, that eye-opening doesn't happen without that set of circumstances, you know? And so I love that you brought that up. It's so true. Yeah. And we're seeing it play out. We really are. We're seeing it absolutely play out on the floor. It was very evident on Tuesday against the Cavs that they were focusing on defense. And I won't be surprised one bit if we're talking about this next Tuesday, the next time that we're back here together, that we're talking about how through the whole weekend we saw, you know, Thursday night against the Mavs, the best scoring team, we're talking about how the Trailblazers played defense. And then even, you know, we've got the Clippers on Saturday, matinee game, 12:30 on Saturday, by the way, guys, during College Saturday. Good thing the Ducks are on at night. Yeah, so, I mean, make sure you can watch that game in your pajamas. That's going to be awesome. And then another game on Sunday right back here at home. So it's going to be important, but we are going to be talking about, I feel like this is going to be a story we're going to be talking about a lot, the Trailblazers defensive improvements. Do you guys think that that's the case as well? Good. John LaCrofka wants to know about your defense when you were trying to guard him up at Irving Park. He hashtagged that 80s smack talk.
Love it.
Good
Love
stuff.
it,
John, you're so funny.
Love
Cracks me up. Everybody in the chat, you guys, huge eye opener. I mean, they completely agree. I really, really think that you guys are so spot on. I love that our fan base is so educated. You guys are so awesome.
High IQ fan base.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's another question. This one says, Orlando should focus on getting Lopez the ball early, or should we be focused on getting the ball early like we did last game tonight? Maybe get Tyson Chandler in foul trouble?
You know, the philosophical idea and the answer to that question is it's the ball moving from the interior to the exterior. Whether it's Robin Lopez or whether it's dribble penetration by Damian Lillard, or if it's Wesley Matthews posting up on the block, I'm more along the lines of not necessarily making it a Robin Lopez, Tyson Chandler matchup, but moving the ball inside out. From a philosophical perspective, that's how I think that we build it. And I think that was part of the success versus the Cavs. The ball went inside and it came out.
I completely agree. That is fantastic stuff. All right, we're going to go ahead and take another break here from the Court Report. When we come back, we'll be doing some rapid fire questions with you guys and giving you our keys to victory. We, of course, want to know yours, so put those in the chat as well, and we will be right back in just a few short moments.